Well, here we are. Welcome back to another neighborhood training session. And as we mentioned before, the main focus of these neighborhood sessions is to take an area of Falmouth and really break it out and look at its different aspects and look at the construction and occupancy and terrain, topography, hazards, and issues like that. This week is not so much focusing on a neighborhood as we are going to focus into a particular area of Falmouth. As you see here, this week we're going to be focusing in on the Technology Park in Thomas Landers Road area of West Falmouth. And this area, as I'm sure you're all aware, is a unique area of town where it is primary focus is on light industrial zoning and light industrial occupancies. And as soon as you think about that and you think about the addresses, you should be automatically thinking about a building construction, the type of buildings that are up there. And the type of buildings that are up there automatically should come to your head as those Butler building type, metal clad, steel framed, unprotected steel, non-combustible type buildings with the bar joist roof truss systems. This is also an area that automatically should come to your heads, probably not. It's a lot of daytime use as far as jobs, but not so much nighttime occupancies. So we also, the next thing that should come to your mind is that any building over 7,500 square feet, which is almost any building in this area here of Tech Park, is sprinklered. 7,500 square feet or above is a sprinklered building. So we should be looking at that. Plus, the next thing that should come to your mind is what the occupancy is what hazards there are as far as any industrial stuff. In other neighborhoods, we're talking about residential, we're talking about wood frame, we're talking about life hazards and collapse hazards and so forth. Here we're talking about we have all kinds of industrial hazards there that would be involved. So without further ado, I'm sure we'll just take a run through real quick and just run down the area that we're talking about. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. Here we are up here. This is Route 28. We come down Thomas Landers Road and come into the first road that we come to is Research Road on the right, and this whole section of Thomas Landers running down, I think it's from like 780, which is down the western end, up to like 540 or thereabouts, is down by Blacksmith Shop Road, is different zoning. So, Thomas Landers Road basically runs down. The industrial park itself is, Research Road, and then we come into Tech Park Drive, which is over here. Tech Park, the cul-de-sac, and the new water tower Yeah, the map has a mind of its own. Tech Park, Research Road is the entrance on the western end. Tech Park is the entrance on the more eastern end. And then within the development we have, Bernard St. Jean is the primary road within that comes down and does this loop. And that's where most of the building addresses are either on Tech Park or Research Road. And then this is Langdon Burwell Drive over here, and there's really only one building up here, the Shellfish building up here, which is currently unoccupied, right down at the end. And of course this is the town disposal area. But along Thomas Landers we have all the Frachillo's contractor yard. We have Acme Precast. Is this large swath here is Acme Precast's production facility, and the other we have Tradesman Circle within that as well, plus a variety of sand and gravel pits on either side of the road. Didn't spend too much time on the maps this time here. One thing that I do want to point out map-wise is this map right here, and it kind of gives us an overview of why we're dealing with these hazards within this area here. This whole area here that we see in green is agricultural AA zoning from the town. And that sounds boring. Who wants to listen to what zoning is all about? But it does. This is where it has an effect upon the fire service and upon what we need to be thinking of. We look at this orange area here over in West Falmouth. Well, the town is set up the zoning here for its residential. Okay, so you shouldn't have to deal with too much business or industrial type fire situation in a residential area. Nor should we be dealing with that in an agricultural AA district. And the AA stands for 2-acre zoning. So that means the houses are farther apart, which means we don't have any conflagration hazards, nor do we have really a lot of exposure hazards. Everybody's got 2-acre zoning. So that's what we're dealing with there. Now when we get into this area here, this silver zone area here, now this is an area here it's called LIA, which is light industrial area here. This whole section here on both sides of Thomas Landers is light industrial. Okay, and down in the Tech Park, it is zoned. A lot of these areas are PU for public use. Now we probably can't. Okay, there we go. The public use area. This is the town dump, and this is the sewer plant here. Now the Tech Park was part of the town of Falmouth. Started that, so that was initially a part of a town project, and since then they've changed the zoning over in there to I'll just see if we can pop this up here to show if they show the zoning there. All right, they're not gonna show that, but oh, there we go. Light industrial as well. Light industrial A, light industrial B, and those basically are just showing there's an A zone and a B zone, the size of the building and the type of buildings that can be in there. We can't have, in the industrial park, we can't have junkyards. Over in the A area, you could have something similar to that. So that's just the bottom line. That's how that relates to that. And while we're talking about that, and we're looking at this whole area here, the other thing we can see right off the bat, we got hydrants and we got water system throughout the whole area. Okay, so we got hydrants that are at least 500 feet apart, if not closer. We have 2 water tanks. We have one water tank here, which is an older one. I believe that one's empty. And we have a new water tank. This is the elevated water tank, which should increase our town-wide pressure right about in here. So, we look at here, we can see in the seeing what we have. We have pipes all over the place here. Now the size of the mains that are there are the 16-inch mains on Thomas Landers, and here we can see that we have 12-inch mains within the park itself. So we got really good size water mains right here. Okay, so that's a good thing to know. We got good water supply. We got good mains. The other thing that we will be paying attention to here is the size of some of these buildings. Now we can tell from just from perspective wise the relative size of these buildings compared to some others that are in here. We look at the size of this building here, we look at the size of this one here. Well, this is about 4 times the size of this little building here, and the same thing here, and the same thing as far as, you know, over here. So right away when we're looking at these size buildings, all these buildings do present their hazards, but when we see the size of the building here, we're talking about a higher fire load, we're talking about wide areas as far as searches, you know, we're talking about, you know, all kinds of issues as far as fire spread within the building. So this one here, of course, is the accurate plastics. Then this here is the new MBL and NOAA building here, and down here with Associates of Cape Cod building here. And we'll talk more about that later on as we go. Okay. Just a quick shot at the other map. This is our town map here. Doesn't show us too much more, but one thing I did want to point out here, this has caused some confusion now and then as to this parcel of property right in here. Okay, we have the J.K. Scanlon building over here, and we have the E-Paint building over here. And this looks like a road, and there's no road sign here. Okay, so oftentimes we're looking for number 19. There's no sign at the end that says, points us up here, says this is 19. Or there's no sign that says this is, I think it's a engineering building in the back. But you just have to know that this looks like a road. It looks like it should have a sign on it. It actually has a little cul-de-sac up here and a hydrant. It's not a road. It's just access this piece of property. So between Scanlon's and E-Paint, we have 15 for Scanlon's, 25, and then 19 Research Road is out in the back. So that's just one of the things that we have to be, you know, aware of, is how we're going through there. And up here we have Web Research here. This is the old water tower. And over here we have Atlantic Marble. No, this is Atlantic. Where'd it go? That was the Woods Hole Research, and Atlantic Marble is up over here. And you know, up here we have Accurate Plastics, which we have had a couple of fires in there. Half of the building is used for storage, and half of it's for a production facility to make like silicone chips. And in here we have the Enterprise building, its production facility, and the on-the-water offices. As I mentioned before, this is the HUI, and I mean the MBL and the NOAA, the new water tower, the Falmouth sheet metal building over here in Langdon Burwell. Of course, this here is Bernard St. Jean. This is the Loop. Okay, and this is the currently unoccupied building, the Shellfish building, sheet metal. This is Richard's metal fabricators there, and McLean Labs, and then the Associates of Cape Cod, Horseshoe Crab offices and production facility over there. And we won't go over all of them, but we also, up on Thomas Landers Road, we have Tradesman Circle. And what Tradesman Circle has been doing currently is they've been making business bays. So they got these buildings here on this lot. They're probably 10 foot wide apart, but they are those Butler type buildings or Morton buildings, but they're 10 foot apart on this one lot here. And we have several business bays that are going on there. There's a paving company, there's a boat company, and so on and so forth. Plumber Bay, you're up in there. And then we have the Katamet Sawmill, and then we have the further over we have Frachillo's contractor's yard with the concrete batch place in the rear, and also the First Student bus lot over there. And over on this side we have the cement batching plant over across from the town dump. Proposal landscaping. Then we have the new Peterson building up there that houses like a dancers center and another office building in the back. Over in here we have Sylvester Moving Company. The building movers are up over in here. So that's a list of that. Now over on this section over here, as we mentioned in the zoning maps, this is still all agricultural AA. So we do have residential buildings over here on this side here. Okay, this house here is down the back. You can't really see it from the road. Now this building here has a like a pet care facility. It's kind of like a home business right here. And then I think one of these people up here has like a tree or landscape business involved. So they do allow some in that agricultural AA zoning allows a home business. Okay. We'll just flip through real quick in looking at some of the buildings that are in that area. And it's important because we need to be familiar with what's there and what hazards, and we're only going to briefly go over them in this presentation, but it is something that you're going to have to just go up there a lot on your own, but we'll go over it here. The good thing about the tech park is there is a lot of they do have good directions and good road signs, and they do have good maps that show where everybody is. So this is the map as you enter on Research Road on the western end. You could take a quick stop or come by on your own, and it really gives you a good layout of where everything is. The Social Security building, E-Paint, and here we are up in here. It says it says Cape Cod Research E-Paint in the back. Scanlon's, Johnson Homes, they haven't built anything here yet. And as I mentioned, the water tank web research, so it's pretty well laid out. Kayak Pools is the Richards Metal fabrication facility there. They do a lot of aluminum and fabrication for the oceanographic. So they have a lot of tools in which they shape metal and drilling, and so it's a lot of machinery in there. And McLean's Research Associates of Cape Cod, and so on and so forth. So good maps. And briefly, this building here is the Social Security building. As we come in from Research Road, this is the J.K. Scanlon building, and basically where all their architects and engineers and all that are done when they are doing their projects. And okay, and here's the that building I showed you up in that cul-de-sac. I believe it was 19 Research Road on the cul-de-sac. It says on the main map, it says E-Paint. Two buildings are E-Paint, but yet on the sign in the center it says something about an engineering company. I'm just going to run over these real quick just to show you that, what's out there. This is the E-Paint building right on Research Road when you go in on the left, and you see those stacks up there. They're not put up there for looks. They're put up there to blow off the vapors and fumes from the paint production facility down there. They make environmentally friendly boat paints and so forth down there, so they need to make sure that everything's vented. So that's what that's all about. When you see something like that, it's not necessarily for looks. And this might be the same. Here we go. This is Web Research. It's recently acquired by Teledyne, and they do a lot of like oceanographic, underwater research type experiments and production of like robotics and cameras and sound machines. They're also in this site nearby is where they're going to be building the 400-foot tall wind turbine that should be coming up in the near future. That will be going on. And this is the sign for the Woods Hole Group, 81 on Tech Park Drive. And this is okay, no, that's not it. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I'm getting the right building. Okay, that's the sign. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay, let me see. Is this Woods Hole Research building? Okay, and this is Woods Hole Research. Basically, it's just a building full of offices. I've been in there. There's an elevator in there, and it's really just a building full of offices. And on this side here, it's a 3-story plus a roof. You go around to this side here, and you actually come up to the front of the building. This is actually kind of like the back of the building. You come around the front, and it looks like an old southern Georgia type mansion with the big 2.5-story wide porch on the front of it. They did that in order to site it on the property. But it's pretty good, clear place here to put the ladder, which is a good thing. Nice that they were able to do that. Okay. Okay, I mentioned before that this is it is the good signage within the property, Tech Park Drive. It's got good arrows telling us which way to go. They light up pretty well. And that's 26, 25. Okay, this is Atlantic Marble. 24. Hopefully we'll get to these buildings. This is Richard's Design, Metal Fabrications building. Used to be the kayak pool. And this is the McLean Labs. They do experiments and some lab work there. I know a few years ago we went there for I believe it was a hydrochloric acid leak. I think Billy Newton was on that day, or Scott Williamson, I can't remember. There might have been 2 incidents there, but they did the right things. They got the report of that. They stood back from the property. They took out their binoculars, took a look at the scene. They had the people in the building come to them and get a report as to what was going on. So those are the type of things of why we need to know what each building's occupancy is. I mean, obviously, if we went up to the Richards metal fabricators, we probably don't have to worry about a hydrochloric acid leak. So, we might not be doing that, but this building here, we do need to know, what its importance is. It's Associates at Cape Cod, building a very large building where they have their offices and also their production facilities. And the horseshoe crab is not there just for looks. That's where they get their money from. Processing the blood and products and fluids from horseshoe crabs and making them into medical drugs, cancer drugs. And that's just another building, for another shot of the Associated Cape Cod from a different angle. The sun was out that day. Pretty. This is a new building they built, and it is a business bay building that's been set up. There's several different businesses within that. And here we go. This is the New England Shellfin building. It's currently unoccupied. Used to be a shellfish processing facility. As you can see, here's the typical, when we were talking about the Butler building or metal clad building or so forth. It's a steel frame, okay, as we, I know everybody's picked it up along the way. It was steel framed, and we got the steel bar trusses running across here. This one here happens to be a peak roof Morton building. A lot of those other buildings are just flat roof. This building here, actually, I haven't been inside of it, but usually get the clear spans. They use the metal truss, but in this case here, they could, have a wood truss system up there. But this building here has a drive around, and it has a box. A box is around the, if we want to say this is the A side, or around the C side is where the box is at. And this is the sheet metal building up there. Basically, it's just a Butler building where they do a lot of sheet metal fabrication. So if we go up to a place like that, we're probably going to be dealing with hydraulic cutting machines and hydraulic presses and heavy-duty hydraulic rollers. We could be dealing with workers up there being hurt with, different types of machinery, getting their, getting perhaps caught in the machinery itself. And we also look at perhaps something that has welding and cutting and, anything like that. So those are things we have to be thinking of ahead of time. And this is the MBL and NOAA building. This is where a lot of offices are within there. As you can see, it's a pretty good size structure, and we're going to visit the size of that structure as we go along. But they have a lot of different offices. We've been in there, and it's a pretty expansive metal-clad building. And while we talked about that. This building here obviously is going to be the same thing as we talked about, right? The steel bar joist is probably steel framing, but we got those truss to give them the clear span. And look at the air conditioning units on top. Okay, those areas been reinforced from underneath, or they designed for the load. If we need to vent this building, also, if we need to vent the roof. We're going to have to make sure how much fire volume there is underneath before we even go on the roof. We can easily say we should never, ever, ever go on the roof of a building like this. However, how else are you going to vent it? You just cannot. You could put the aerial up to the side, and how are you going to get down and actually effectively cut a hole on a roof like this? We don't have, the ability to do that. So. We do have to weigh the volume of fire that's underneath and where its location is against cutting a hole, a vertical vent hole up above. Or the other thing to do is, we could cut a hole in the side of the building for horizontal ventilation. But one of the principles, right, of fire attack is ventilation and systematic removal of smoke and heat, in order for the fire, for our fire forces to advance and extinguish it. So, have to keep that in mind. One of the hazards we have. And this is the Atlantic marble, just from a different angle. And this is the Enterprise production facility, and the on-the-water office building over this side here. And a bit inside of there, what could you expect inside of the Enterprise production facility? Well, you could expect large rolls of paper, either stacked up or on their actual rollers. You could expect forklift trucks that are run by LP gas cylinders. You could anticipate lots of high fire load in there as far as scrap papers laid all over the place that could be catch on fire in a quick fire. We're dealing with inks. We're dealing with printing presses and printing materials. The loading dock, facilities over there, having a truck right up against it. The loading dock. So these are just some of the things that that I'm sure we're all aware of. And here's just another example of the signage within the tech park itself, which is good for us. And take a look here. This is, I couldn't get the whole building in, but this is the Accurate Plastics building, which due to its nature of developing plastics, has a foam extinguishing system, and also has a sprinkler system. It has different venting fans and roof vents. Very large building. It has dividers within the building, so the building can be divided with firewalls. We've had a couple of fires within there already, so we have to be aware of that and what they're doing there as well. And that's one we send 3 engines and a ladder truck to, and for all alarms that originate from there. Even the box, we get a full alarm right from the beginning. This is the Acme precast building. Now, this building here is very large, maybe not as large as Accurate Plastics, but it's well over 7,500 square feet. And I mentioned before that any building over 7,500 square feet, commercial building, not residential, right? We talked about that in Ballymead. Is every building over 7,500 square feet supposed to have a sprinkler system. Well, this building does not have a sprinkler system, and the reason why is because it's an all-weather building. Basically it's supposed to be just an open facility inside, out of the weather, where they can produce their concrete products. The septic basins and drain basins and so forth. So it was deemed at that time that they would not need to have a sprinkler system. And you can see here, if they've got these heavy steel beams coming out, they're obviously moving some heavy equipment around in there. And I know a couple of times we've been out there for rescues where guys have been pinned between two heavy objects, i.e. the cesspool catch basins and so forth. So the things to be aware of as we're dealing with this area of town. Just the technology park sign, and the last one I wanted to just pop up. I couldn't get a whole picture of it. Once again, it's a pretty large building. This is the Fucillo Fucillo Contractors Park, and there's business bays within this building here. Once again, here we are, typical indication of what we're dealing with. There's probably divider walls in between each contractor bay, probably large open spaces. Somebody could be doing repair work in one bay, someone else could be doing painting perhaps in another, and in another could be a totally different type of business going on. The first student bus storage place, and in the rear they have Fucillos have the concrete production facility with their silos for their Portland cement. So it's just a quick shot there. We will take a quick look at an overview like we always do with what our just a final wrap up of the area that we're talking about. There we go. I just want to frame the shot here. Okay, yeah, so we're talking about the Tech Park area, the Thomas B. Landers Industrial Zone. There's 45 structures from the Route 28 highway down to the intersection with Blacksmith Shop Road, including Tradesman Circle, Research Drive, Bernard St. Jean, and Tech Park Drive. 45 structures. There's 5 residential and business. We saw it before in the agricultural AA zoning, more towards the western part of Thomas Landers. There's 18 buildings within Tech Park. Oh, there we go. And 26 buildings out on Thomas Landers. Predominant construction. We talked about that. A lot of places we go to, right? It was single-family wood frame. No. Well, here we go. This is an area here where non-combustible construction. That means the building materials that the structures are built out of are not supposed to contribute to the fire load, which steel does not. But as we all know, steel, when it heats up, loses its strength. It becomes very elastic, it loses its strength, and can collapse. So anything above 800 degrees, we need to be concerned about that. On our fire tech, we got the steel frame, the steel I-beams and the steel girders, the I-beams and the H-beams and some of the columns. Sure, they're going to support. They may be unprotected steel, but they're going to hold up pretty good. The thing we're going to have problems with is the bar joists, the trusses, in order to give them the clear span. So all these buildings are sprinklered if they're over 7,500 square feet. Okay, but what is not sprinklered? Most often these trusses are not sprinkled. Most often the sprinklers are below the trusses. So we get a fire up and above, or fire that goes above the trusses. One of our tactics, one that we need to be concerned about, is to not only to extinguish the fire within the building, but we need to put hand lines or any type of water onto the bar joist trusses immediately upon entering the building. Cool them down. Get that heat out there. Give them some strength. If we cool them off, we've given them some strength. If we just continue to try and put water on the fire, we're going to continue to add heat to those bar joists. So we can put out the fire at the floor level, and all of a sudden those bar joists can come down. So we need to direct our streams up towards the ceiling, and perhaps we have one on the fire and one up at the ceiling to cool those, and that will help us. Will save our lives. So we do have some wood frame, single family wood frame, and we do have some wood frame business construction down there. I believe it's Loud Fuel is in there. I think they're a wood frame building. Just an example of some of the size of the buildings and the value of the buildings. This is Associates at Cape Cod. It's the Horseshoe Crab Place. 58,000 square foot. Okay, $6 million value of the structure alone. Not about the contents, not about their contents or their production or their research or their job value. The structure alone, $6 million. The MBL building, half of the size, a little bit under half the size, 35,000 square feet. And the same thing with Accurate Plastics, almost 70,000 square feet. It says here the value is $3 million. I'd say it's probably a little bit more for the building. That's just the building replacement alone. We got to remember that these buildings up here that we talked about, they are cheap to put up. They're steel framed. They're just that thin metal cladding on the side, and the insulation involved. The chief issue here is our life hazard for the firefighters. The secondarily is the what goes on in these buildings is the value, not so much the building. So if we can do something to contain the fire, these people will still be able to be in production, and we can in turn save jobs. Okay, the roads: Thomas Landers, Tradesman Circle, Research Road, Tech Park, Bernard St. Jean, Langdon Burwell. Only address that seems to be on Langdon Burwell is the Shellfish, the former Shellfish building. Bernard St. Jean is the primary loop road within that, and Research Tech Park. There were hydrants everywhere, water tanks, 12 and 16-inch mains. Whoops, we got to bring that up there. Okay, 12 and 16-inch mains. We talked about before. What's our hazards? Bang, right at the top, right our hazards of construction, unprotected steel. You stay off the roof for a fire. There's significant fire on the roof, significant fire underneath, significant heat. We need to stay off the roof. We have to balance that out. We need a good size up to know what exactly we're dealing with fire. If there's not much fire and a lot of smoke, yeah, we can get up on the roof. We're going to do it safely, we're going to do it smartly, and we're going to either open one of those roof hatches or we'll cut a hole in the roof if we have to. But let's keep in mind, we have a large volume of fire underneath, let's stay off the roof. The large open areas and a high fire load. Okay, we got to deal with industrial machinery. All this type of stuff, hydraulic presses and cutters and rollers, conveyors, combustible fluids, hazmats, high voltage. We talked about one of those buildings quite a while ago in Ballymead, having a 400 amp service, a 10,000 square foot residential building, no sprinklers, wood framed, having a 400 amp service. That's almost a commercial occupancy, no sprinklers. Life hazard of single family living within it. You know, in this case here, we're dealing with this industrial, voltage here, so we have to be real careful. Life hazard, our own, the workers. What's the positive? Well, they should be able to exit. If there's a fire and an alarm in the daytime, these people should be awake. They should be alert. They should be able to exit on their own. So that's going to say to us, hey, there's a little less life hazard involved here. At night, what are we going to have? We're going to have on-site security. I know there's at least one building in there that has a person staying there around the clock for security purposes. There could be overnight cleaners. There could be overnight workers. Perhaps the Associates of Cape Cod has people working there overnight, doing their production. We know that they have cleaners there. We've had a time when the elevator went out of service and trapped a worker within the elevator. So, just what we're looking at, solutions and positive aspects. I put that in for size up. We're doing accurate size up. Sprinkler systems, good hydrants, a steel frame. We have special systems, foam systems, and the accurate plastics. We have to use the thermal imaging cameras. We have them on all the engines. We use them. We have the temperature, laser temperature device in truck 28. That's going to be a very accurate tool in order to tell us the temperature at the ceiling, the temperature anywhere within the building. And that's going to be a very valuable tool for us to use, and very simple to use. Limited exposures, they're far enough apart from each other. We have a day occupancy. If we're venting, high horizontal venting with ground ladders if there's too much fire, or vertical vent with the aerial. The response obviously is 24, 23 on a still Station 3 rescue, 24, 23, 21 on a fire. We'll talk real briefly here on the response. Within there, Station 4 is just under 3 miles to the Associates of Cape Cod, so you should be able to get in there with 6 minutes from the time of call. Station 3, you're 3.4 miles away. That's a little bit longer, perhaps 9 minutes, but 23 and 24 usually get there roughly about the same time, and that's a good thing. Headquarters is 6.2 miles away, so you're talking about 10 minutes, or 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more from the initial call. And the next arriving pieces there, Station 5, is 5.2 miles away. Even though they're a little closer from headquarters, they have to go a lot of back roads, so it takes them longer. So sometimes it's not about being closest, it's about the travel distance and the road network that's involved. In this case here, headquarters has a much quicker shot in road networks to get out there than Station 5 would. Station 2 is 8.3 miles away, so a while away. Okay, so that wraps that up. I know this was a little long today, but we did want to cover this area here, and I think it's very important. It's a different area in occupancy that we've been talking about in the past. So I know we went over things very quick. I wish everybody would go out there and take a look at it yourself, and I'm sure you have. We should be familiar with the hazards in our community. All right, thank you, and stay safe and eat healthy.